Wellness Wednesday with Dr. Bradley Meyer, the Okoboji Wellness Clinic. Good morning, Dr. Meyer.
Good morning, Dave. Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here.
Well, we're going to talk about little big things today, and so I'll just let you kind of get this rolling a little bit because you've got things to make sure that those little big things don't slip away from us, or if they have slipped away, maybe we can get them back.
Absolutely. So these things can take a toll on us. So, many times when folks come in, I start with some of the most simple things you think about. Are you eliminating? What does that mean? How often you going to the bathroom? How are you sleeping? Because that matters. How is your pain? And so many times folks come in and they're used to not feeling well, and it becomes their new normal.
Mm-hmm.
And these folks are many times, they've lost a lot of hope and they're searching. They realize that they're feeling maybe about 10 to 15 years older than their actual age. They want some quality with their lives, their everyday existence. And so it's such an honor to be part of the trust that folks come in here to the clinic and trust to our team to work on these things. These little big things are like the layers of an onion, basically. When we start to peel back, I call it detective work. And it's such a blessing to have the time to look at these things. Yesterday I was on a visit with somebody that came in with some neuropathy, meaning numbness in the feet. Pain is a big thing, some digestive symptoms. And to be able to sit down with that individual for an hour and a half and really work at things and then pick out 2 to 3 areas that I think are going to be the best for him to get started, to see some results in an expedited manner. And that, for individuals like him, others that come in, that's a little big thing. Mm-hmm. And we start them on this path, and we say, okay, how can we address that knee pain? I'll give you an example of somebody else that's a real exciting story. Graduation time has come up recently here around the area, and scaling those bleachers without pain in the knees to be able to get up and down, and to do some ozone therapy injections in those knees, and to then be able to scale those bleachers with ease. That's a little big thing. That's a big thing. Encourage folks when they're thinking of the trajectory of their life, the path they're on, to kind of put together some goals. How do they want to feel better? In what way? What are those little big things that I've gotten used to living with that really take a toll on my body, take a toll on my mental health? And then that's what we're here for. We're here to an incredibly empowered and passionate team to work on those things with our big and expanding toolkit. And that process, a lot of times folks will kind of wonder, because we want the instant gratification. And believe it or not, with some of these ozone injections, we can help with pain in a fairly expedited manner. So that's always exciting. Again, ozone is a gas. 3 oxygen molecules. We talked last week about oxygen, how huge that is for the body's ability to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one of those that is just real fun to work with because we see some results pretty quickly. But in general, when you come in and you start down this path, what may I expect as far as the time frame to start feeling better, the whole body reset, so to speak? It was interesting, this conference that I was at a couple of weeks now, one speaker spoke on that, and I thought it was really, he was on point. And what he had found with one treatment modality, it was about 2 to 3 months for this reset to happen in the body. And so that's kind of what we've seen here too. When we address things from a lifestyle perspective, nutrition, diet, identifying what might be causing inflammation. We've talked a little bit about mold. We've talked about gluten, many other things that can inflame the body. But once we identify those things and we create a path for the individual to come in, they get to set the tempo. So I will say, hey, I think that these treatments here that we have in the clinic and these adjustments in your lifestyle, these approaches are going to be, some options for you. What we will then let the individual use their own discernment, that gut feeling, to go with what's right for them. And that might be lightning speed. Some folks will come in here and say, all right, I am ready to do as much as you recommend as quickly, as much as my body can tolerate, because there is a tempo. We want to take the right tempo on recovery and helping the body get into that healing space. I have had some folks that have taken both a fast tempo and a slow tempo, both with great results. And so, as we've talked, just cleaning up the diet and the nutrition doesn't cost a lot of money. And then we hit it with some of these other supportive measures. So, but make that investment in yourself, because what is one of the biggest things that we have that it's really hard to put a monetary value on, and it's our health. And it's easier to do it when we don't have it. And those little big things, the little things become big things. And then we start to say, oh, wow, what I wouldn't give to have that be better.
Yeah.
And so it's always good to work on it before it gets to the point where it's really severe, whatever that condition, that disease, that inflammation, that process may be, on the prevention side or earlier side. But I don't believe it's ever too late to start working on things, within some reason. But just remember that so often we are waiting for things to completely break down, and we just get used to living a certain way before we address them. And so I want your day-to-day life to be impactful, powerful, so you can go out and bless other people with your gifts. I believe our job here is to optimize folks' health and wellness so that they can go out and bless others with the gifts that God has given them. And they feel like they can bless others with the gifts God has given them when they are feeling their best.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things that we have been talking about is ozone therapy. And the movie that I recently, or documentary or film trailer, whatever the case might be, that I recently watched on ozone therapy, they had a 90-plus-year-old lady that they interviewed in that thing, and boy, she was full of spunk, let me tell you, and she was absolutely a big believer in the ozone therapy, and boy, the doctor certainly was a huge believer in ozone therapy. That is just one of the tools, and the cool thing about ozone, you talked about shots in the knee, but you can have that in IV form as well. You can give it via shot. You can do it via IV. And then we think about things like hyperbarics and red light therapy. And I think one thing that we've discovered, and many like you across the nation, that the source of a whole lot of disease is inflammation. And if you can get the inflammation cooled down in the body, whether it be through diet, which is huge for a lot of people, if you can get the inflammation toned down somehow, some way, then the healing can begin. And that's what people like you are trying to peel back those layers so you can get that inflammation cooled down. And then when you get down to play with the flowers and you can get back up without any assistant, that is a little big thing.
It's a little big thing. Absolutely. That's how, you can change the whole environment when you're feeling your best. Your family can feel it, your friends can feel it, those in your workspace can feel it, and again, that's when you shine. And like you said, inflammation is a huge key. Another big key is metabolism. We're amping up metabolism, how well you make energy or ATP in your mitochondria. So how well you utilize oxygen in that process. We want to find out, is there an infection going on? Do you got mold? Do you have a viral? Do you have bacteria? Do you have heavy metals? Is your gut out of balance? Do you have gut dysbiosis? The metabolism, the infection, what are those little things that are stressing the immune system and then eventually leading to that inflammation that you talk about? So absolutely. It's a big, I almost call it a challenge. In some ways it is. But as we move forward here in the health and wellness space across this country, it is a shift. It's a shift because, again, we've always kind of just waited for things and then worked with Band-Aids. And sometimes, like we say, we're happy to have those pharmaceuticals. At times we need them, in many cases, to kind of bridge the gap. But it's nice if we don't have to depend on them for extended periods of time. So this whole evolution in healthcare, where you've got a lot of traditional doctors now that are working and walking into this space with increased modalities and new approaches that many times are not as new as we think. They've been around a long time. It's just the system and the doctors have gotten away from them, and it's coming back now. It's coming back in a big way. I think the big thing for folks, it's investing in their health, and that's kind of a newer concept as well. The healthcare system and insurance system is kind of there for emergencies, but not really there to focus on, just due to the lack of time that the traditional system can often take with the individual to get them into that healing space. It's not there. So we're in this movement where folks are deciding, all right, I've got this backup plan, this insurance, and I'm glad that's there, but I want more. I want to work in this healing space and work with different tools and be my best. Work on those little big things that are eventually big things and can then spiral. But we want an upward spiral of health, and it's possible that 2 to 3 month period is a big time for folks to get back on track. And I want that for everybody that comes in here and comes into any healing space across the country.
We need to let people know how they can come and visit with you or visit with you somehow, some way, so they can get on their way to living the day, not just surviving the day.
Absolutely. And that you are part of the journey. It's such a beautiful thing when we do it together. I learn from our guests every day, and as we figure out what's going to be that best sweet spot for that individual. So it's a shared journey. You can give us a call at 712-339-6024. And we are at 3305 Berquist Avenue off Highway 71 in Spirit Lake. Give us a call for a 15-minute complimentary discovery call with me as well. If you want to just bend my ear a little bit and say, hey, I got these few maybe little big things, and what do you think? You think I'm a good candidate, and maybe what you might think would be some good things to start off with? We can chat about that and then get you scheduled for an initial visit to really sit down and do some digging and peeling back the layers.
And, like, for example, using my age group, early 60s. You want to get going on these things before it's too late, before it's never too late, I guess. But while you have the movement and while you have the ability to help your own self along, it's a good time to get going.
Yeah, it's better to do it before you lose it, and it's discovering and identifying what's your why.
Yeah.
Somebody recently was in and said, my why is I'm about a couple of years from retirement and I want to travel the world. Or another person, a lot of times it's I want to be able to get off the floor and play with my grandkids. And so it's find the why and focus on that, and then we will help you in that journey on that path to get you to that desired goal.
Very good. Dr. Meyer, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Appreciate these Wellness Wednesdays, and we'll talk again next week.
All right. Be well. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Bradley Meyer with us today from the Okoboji Wellness Clinic. You can find out more online, okobojewellnessclinic.com.